To know and tell and to retell requires knowing that, not long ago, at the foot of a hill in the city of Valparaiso, there was a cave that seemed very shallow, but was actually as deep as eternity. This cave was located in the center of town, and in a place that was a mandatory passage for all passers-by, for no one could go from the port to Almendral, and from Almendral to the port without crossing the narrow gorge formed by the hill of the cave with the sea, and to avoid sometimes getting their feet wet in the waves that would crash against the hill at times of high tide. Now, all that has changed, for thanks to the powerful will of a millionaire, the hill was cut down, and the cave walled up, and converted into a solid vaulted building destined to store the treasures of a bank. But we were talking about the happy times when that Croesus had not yet closed the cave, leaving what it contained in eternal prison. At that time, there was no beautiful street as seen there today, nor were there any residents living in the surrounding area, neither gas nor oil to light up the darkness of the nights. Thus, that place was dangerous at certain hours, and no Christian could risk crossing it with impunity. The entire population of Valparaiso knows that, at the time we are referring to, the cave had been given its name and much fame by a certain monstrous Goatling who emerged from it at night to trap anyone who passed by. It is well known that no one could resist the Herculean strength of that ferocious animal, and that all who fell under its horns were put into the caverns of the cave, where they were tricked or defeated, if they were not willing to take certain risks in order to disenchant a damsel whom the goat had enchanted in the most isolated part of his dwelling. Those who dared to run those risks had to first fight a serpent that crawled up their legs, coiled around their waists, arms, and throats, and kissed them on the mouth. Then they had to deal with a troop of sheep that butted them, blocking their path, until they were exhausted. And if they succeeded in this ordeal, they had to pass through crows that gouged out their eyes, and between soldiers who pricked them. Consequently, no one completed the task, and all declared themselves defeated before entering the enchantment. Then they had no other option to preserve their own lives than to allow themselves to be deceived and resign themselves to living forever as servants of the famous Goatling, who ruled there with a sovereign and absolute will, as do many sultans of this world. It goes without saying, then, that no one ever returned from the cave to tell us about their mysterious wanderings, and that all these stories told by the people were known only by revelation or intuition. But the truth is that there was hardly a family that didn't recount the loss of a relative in the cave, nor a mother who did not mourn some little child stolen and turned into a follower of the Goatling, for it is well known that he did not limit himself to conquering his own vassals among the passers-by, but extended his reach to the point of stealing all the badly off children he found in the city. And since Valparaiso is a city teeming with children, and since there are so many children who have such careless mothers, if they have any at all, and since, to top it all, there are so many children distracted by any trifle, or who chase after any little thing, even the imbunches, the informer would make a bountiful harvest. In spite of these tricks, the Goatling was reaping a bountiful harvest of conquests, so that if his cave were not blocked, he would perhaps have the entire population duped by now. It is easy to imagine that the animal would not have been found walking the streets in his own proper and natural form for the hunting of children, since the good stolen mothers tell us that they are witches, and also, occasionally, male warlocks, who steal girls in the city. This shows us that the Lord of the Cave had, and still has some old women in his service, who must be precisely those witches who are busy luring boys. And he undoubtedly also has young warlocks luring girls to take to his domains. But surely those faithful servants who came out of the cave must not have entered there from elsewhere, and were undoubtedly raised and born in that region, or at least became dupes at an early age, so as not to have concerns in the world outside, nor adhere to external parties, nor to interests unrelated to those of their powerful lord.